Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor. With Roaring, as always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. Bengals training camp is underway. The Reds keep spinning their wheels. We're a few weeks away from the start of college football season, so we're not quite there yet. We've got plenty to talk about in this podcast, thanks to a couple of guys who aren't even at Bengals training camp.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably focus mostly on the Bengals and all the drama surrounding that. First day of training camp was Wednesday. You guys had the media luncheon on Tuesday, right?
Monday.
There was a lot that came out of that and then some aftermath to it. What's more interesting to you? What should we start off with? Is it the Trey Hendrickson situation or the Shamar Stewart situation?
Yes. I mean, they're both interesting in their own ways because they're both very different, right? I think the Shamar one, in my opinion, because
I agree.
The Trey one is we've seen them go down this path with before, right? Yep. And eventually deals get done. And eventually this deal's going to get done, in my opinion. It'll get done before the first game. If it doesn't, we've got things to talk about there. I wrote a column about it yesterday. But yeah, I think the Shamar Stewart one is way more fascinating because I think Duke Tobin at least tried, and you don't have to take his word for this, but I think he finally gave at least some side of the Bengals in this when he said, you know, this isn't language that isn't in the contracts of every other first round draft pick across the NFL. Why can't contracts evolve? Why are we not allowed to evolve? Again, you don't have to believe him because we still don't know the specific wording of the contract. Mike Brown tried to clear it up by saying, you know, if he goes in prison, we're not going to pay him. Well, of course not. But is there more to the language of, trying to get out from under if this guy's not a good player, right? I mean,
hold on. Let's not gloss over that. That was an all-time spin zone moment by Mike Brown right there. What he did was some PR. I don't remember him ever seeming this savvy, but when he did that whole thing where he made it so black and white of like, we're talking about beating women. That's the only possible thing I can think of that this would pertain to, or being in jail. We don't want to pay them in that situation. He completely reframed the whole issue. Before this was like the Bengals are being petty about wording of a contract. Now it's like, yeah, of course, Mike Brown's right. You shouldn't pay guys if they're in jail. And he completely won people over with that, I think.
But that's fairly standard wording, to be honest with you. I think there's more to the wording process.
No question. Of course there is. But Mike Brown made it so black and white with the way he put it that it reframed the whole situation. Because you're right. That's not what this is about at all. Like, here's the thing that's interesting about it, Skinny.
Because here's the thing. If you're a player in that circumstance, right, and you're not really in much trouble, do you really fear in your next 4 years you're going to wind up in prison for something? Probably not. So if you don't do that, you're going to get your guarantees if that's all there is to this.
Right. That's not what this is about, though. I mean, it's definitely more complicated than that, but it was a great PR move by Mike Brown to get up there and just make it seem like we're really talking about we don't want him to beat women. Because who's going to be against that? Everyone's going to agree with that. So it was a great move by him. The thing about this is, Skinny, this was never going to be in Shamar Stewart's best interest because what they're fighting for isn't that big of a deal, and what they're doing is setting his career back without a doubt. That being said, I don't really understand the media's reaction over the last week here in Cincinnati, other than like everyone's just a fan of the Bengals, but everyone, it seemed like kind of was on the Bengals might be playing hardball and being petty in a situation that doesn't make a lot of sense considering you need a pass rusher right now and you need Shamar Stewart to be ready to go when the season starts. And all of a sudden now everybody has flipped that and they seem to be like, why shouldn't Shamar Stewart just needs to fold? He should come to training camp and be ready to play. Why? He has not lost any leverage here. In fact, he's gaining leverage because Trey Hendrickson isn't coming to camp right now. The Bengals do need a pass rusher. They don't have anyone proven right now at his position, and nothing's changed about the Bengals haven't budged an inch. I don't understand why everyone thinks he should just budge. That's not how negotiations work.
And I hate to do this because we're never going to know. I mean, if the agent wants us to be on their side or what, just tell us what the language is that bothers you. Give us the direct language that bothers you, because there's obviously something more than if I go to jail, if I beat women. There's something far more than that, in my opinion, that's holding this up. So What can that be? Now, again, I'll give Duke Tobin credit for saying, hey, the other 31 teams in the NFL have language like we're trying to put in this contract. Why can't we evolve? And he made a really good point, too. He said, hey, look at all the second-round draft picks that got guarantees that normally didn't get the kind of guarantees they got. And, that's contracts evolving. Guys are getting bigger signing bonuses these days. I think it was brilliant on his part. I thought it was very well played. Again, you don't have to believe him, But if I take him at his word, he's not wrong. Contracts evolve.
I agree with that part of it, but also, Skinny, this goes back to what we talked about. You're right. You do get to evolve the contract. The other teams are doing it, and you should be able to also. But you picked a hell of a time to do it, my man. When you were in a situation with Trey Hendrickson and you really needed, if you were drafting for luxury, you just needed a backup option. You didn't really care whether this guy was good this year, next year, the year after. Okay, then you can play hardball in this situation. But again, Mike Brown said it best himself. We're probably talking about a remote situation here, and you decided to play hardball in that circumstance. So that's fine. That's your right. You can do that. But I don't necessarily agree that Shamar Stewart should be caving right now or that he's lost leverage at all. I think, in fact, he's gaining leverage with each day that Trey Hendrickson sits out, even if you believe that at the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson will suit up when game one is here and he's ready for kickoff and all of that. It sounds like Shamar Stewart's agent is an idiot. I listened to Paul Dehner lay out a pretty extensive history of how he's not done well with previous clients who have had ugly situations with their teams. So here's what I wonder about that situation, Skinny. Do you blame the Bengals at all for not doing more homework about how this might go with his agent?
Yeah, I didn't believe that. You might have asked me that question or somebody on a podcast. I answered that about 5 or 6 weeks ago. And I said, no, I don't think you need to go into that kind of a deep dive with it. I mean, I think you vet the player and you feel good about the player, and the agents usually fall into place and they do their agent things. But this guy does seem to be on the crazy train. I mean, the fact he clapped back at Duke Tobin on Monday for, him saying that, Shamar needs to be there, et cetera. And, he said, Duke Tobin's not even involved in these negotiations. This is above his pay grade. Well, he's not involved in the negotiations, but trust me when I tell you, he's fully aware of what's going on in this contract. I mean, it was a very childish comeback on that agent's part. He clapped back at that he was getting bad advice. And again, maybe he is. Maybe this is way more standard language than I think it is. Because it's got, in my opinion, if it's just standard language, like what we talked about at the beginning of this, that basically if your client isn't an idiot and doesn't get himself in prison and doesn't go to jail, he's going to get all of his money. If it's not that, then okay. But if it is that, then you are being an idiot. You are giving him bad advice. Skinny,
let's give a very real world example. What if he has a rookie season like Jermaine Burton had?
That's and I think that's where I led to believe that, listen, there's a knucklehead clause in there. If this guy's a knucklehead and he's late for this and he does that and he gets, he has some off the field issues, then we can just get rid of him.
Right. If I'm his agent, I have a problem with that.
Right. The question to me is, how broad is that? The Bengals are making it sound like it's not extraordinarily broad. Again, that's their side of it. The agent wants his side of it. I would suggest at this point he come out and say, here's the exact language that we are balking at. So we can know that if it's very, very broad, that it's basically a get out of jail free card if this guy sucks, then okay, then no, I don't blame you for balking guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, he sounds like an idiot. And I actually agree with the overall concept of he's giving bad advice to Shamar Stewart, because I do think this is setting back Shamar Stewart's career. And I think ultimately you're giving up the chance to have a really good career and make lots and lots more millions if you get off to a fast start here, versus what are we squabbling about? Something that's very unlikely to happen? I mean, what's the upside here?
Rick, in my opinion, he's about another week, maybe a little longer, but probably another week removed if he misses time. His rookie season is just a total flop. Well, I mean, he's still taking not one single on-field rep. And I wrote a story today, and it kind of fell in my lap because he was really good, Demetrius Knight. And again, really good in a first training camp practice with no pads is kind of relative, but you can still see some things that you go, oh, okay, I see it. I mean, he took the exact opposite tact, right? He hadn't signed his contract. He decided to practice in the spring. And that's kind of the tact I took with him. You chose to practice in the spring. I mean, if you didn't, where do you think you'd be? I can remember the very first day I was out there in the spring, I was running around like a chicken with my head chopped off. I'd be doing that today. He said, instead, I kind of hit the ground running. And so he took the opposite tact. He finally did get the contract done the day they reported, got the guarantees that they were looking for. And that was kind of a whole second round thing that played its way out. It's like one pick after another pick. Finally, everybody got the guarantees they wanted and went. But he took the opposite tact. And what's that kid going to be as a rookie? He's going to be a starter and maybe a good player.
Yeah, right. So here's the thing on Shamar Stewart. Where are you at on your confidence in him this year, 1 through 10? If 1 is he barely plays at all and shows no reason for confidence going forward, looks like a Jermaine Burton situation or worse. 10 is he'll be an impact player right away.
I'll give it a 3. I'm giving him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I'll give it a 3. Again, you've had no on-field reps, none, zero, zilch. And eventually here, you're going to get through preseason games, and they're going to take those 2 weeks before the Browns game and not do individual drill. You do some individual drill stuff, but you're not worried on skill development. You're worried about game preparation. At that point, you're going with the guys you've gone with. The other part, too, is, and I know this is, it's always play the best guys. I get that. But I think if you're a coach and this kid doesn't come in till late, you're going to give benefit of the doubt to the guys that have been here, even a Cedric Johnson, who's a 7th-round pick from last year that, look, Ced's been through, he's worked hard. We're going to give him an opportunity here because you, A, haven't earned it, and we're not sure we've seen enough for you to earn it. So there goes the rookie year right out the window.
I would have said a 2 or 3 also in terms of my confidence that, in him this year. Isn't that incredible to you that's
yes.
Where we're at? And for a guy that they needed to gain a valuable piece on defense with that pick, for them to be in this situation right now seems almost unfathomable. And then to hear him up there, like Mike Brown saying it, and again, I'm not saying the Bengals are wrong in what they're saying, but to hear Mike Brown saying we're squabbling over something that seems pretty remote, in my opinion, seems like just so silly on everyone's behalf right now.
Correct. But again, I go back to how broad is the language. The only thing we have right now is the Bengals side of it, that 31 other teams are doing this. We're just evolving along with them. Why can't we evolve? And that's a fair statement to make if that's true, right? If this is literally the same language the other 31 teams are using, you should be able to say, well, we should have this language too. But I just don't know how broad the language is. It feels like because this guy was such a boomer bust pick, they're just covering their ass to make sure, God, if he sucks, we got to get out from under this. We can't have 4 years of guaranteed money tied up in this cat.
And if that's the case, then you see the Shamar Stewart side of that too.
Absolutely.
And again, Shamar Stewart's side of it is going to go back to, you've never done this before to anyone else. And the Bengals are going to go, yeah, but contracts evolve. And you can see both sides of that. I just don't think either side has anything to win right now. That's the problem.
It literally, there's a negotiation process with Trey Hendrickson. It's not going well, but there seems like there's literally no negotiation. It's either my way or no, it's my way, right? I mean, that's the way it seems.
Yeah, and when you're talking about something that seems sort of minute and not that big of a deal, but both sides are making it this big of a deal, they're so dug in on it, I don't really see how you come to a conclusion on it one way or the other necessarily. Now, Hendrickson's emo post with a picture of the sun and a caption saying Florida on the day of camp starting. Skinny, where are we at with this guy now?
Where are we at with social media? I'm so over social media. Stuff like this just bugs me. I mean, what a tough guy. You see I'm in Florida. Yeah,
wasn't that just bizarre?
Yes. No, but that's him. He's bizarre. He's an
idiot.
He's a lunkhead. There's no question about it.
But you said it best originally. He's a lunkhead.
Yeah, he's a lunkhead. I never thought it was going to be. It was weird. Some of my beat writer friends had a vibe from Monday that they thought it was getting close, and I didn't. I felt like it might be getting close, but I never felt like Trey was going to be there on report day Tuesday or be at camp yesterday. I mean, and then obviously it kind of exploded into him thinking he got lowballed, etc. So I think we're back at the negotiation process. I just don't know how long this takes. And here's the thing: this was, and that's a column I wrote on Tuesday. This is like the last leverage play. His last leverage play is to make a fuss about not being in training camp, try to force the Bengals' hand to sign them. And the column I wrote was basically he's got 6 weeks until he's got a tough decision to make, and that decision will be when the game checks start rolling in game one, and he's going to make roughly $1 million a game check. Is he really going to sit out? And then he also is going to have to be on the active roster for 6 games this season, at a minimum, to accrue a year to go to free agency after this year. And so if he only decides, well, okay, I'll play in the minimum 6 games. I'll be on the roster for 6 games. What if he does? I've said this. What if he doesn't produce? Let's just say in those 6 games he has only 2 sacks, just because sometimes law of averages in the NFL are what they are. Sometimes you don't get sacks. Suppose you get 2 sacks. You think you're getting paid coming off a year at age 31 when you turn 32 next year and you had 2 sacks in 6 games? You think you're getting paid, lunkhead?
He said he wanted to be a captain. He was willing to take less to make things work, but the offers were basically insulting.
Well, the guaranteed money after year 1 is the thing that he's not happy with, that they didn't guarantee money. There's a part of me that says, okay, If this is only a 2-year extension, then I get it. If it's a 3-year extension, I think I guarantee him money in the first year, guarantee him a little bit in the second year, and then put a large base salary in the last year and just go, hey, if you're still playing well, we'll keep you in the base salary. But if not, he's older, that's not productive anymore just because age is what it is, then you can get out from under the contract because base salary is not guaranteed money. I get why he wants the guarantees, but I think there does have to be a happy medium. You're in your 30s, my guy. Your other choice is this. You are under contract, and Mike Brown and Duke Tobin both made a point of that. Let's not forget he is under contract for this year. You're under contract, then, dude. Go bet on yourself. Get the hell out of here after this year, and go make your money if you can.
Skinny, I don't know if he was serious about it or not. I tend to think not, but I just love the I want to be a captain thing because it was pointed out that he's never been a captain yet in his time in Cincinnati, which tells you exactly what his teammates think of him. He's a lunkhead who draws crosses with eye black on his cheeks and goes out and sacks the quarterback and is basically capable of doing nothing else in life. You know what I think they should do? They should make his 5-year-old son the team captain. He's the one who runs everything in that household. He's the one who has to tell him what he's allowed to do. They should make him the captain.
Yeah, he consults with him.
Yeah. I'm so over this guy, but here's the funny thing about it, Skinny. The Bengals keep saying, like, we know how this is going to play out. Yes. They don't seem too motivated to move because, like, we know he's going to be here. He does this every year. He'll be here.
Mike made the point. He's an emotional guy, and he's emotional, and so at the end of the day, we it's almost like we're going to pat him on his head and go, okay, little fellow, we'll give you close to what you want, but we're still going to win this battle.
Well, that was the other really funny part. I thought Mike Brown was great. This is the best Mike Brown's ever been at one of these media things. The spin zone about making Shamar Stewart's situation only about beating women or going to jail was a great moment for him in a press conference. And then also him negging Trey Hendrickson this time by not saying he's emotional, saying, I don't want to say anything that's going to upset him. So he basically called Trey Hendrickson a baby while saying nothing. It was an incredible job of him. I loved Mike Brown. I'm becoming a Mike Brown guy out of nowhere. 30 plus years into my life, I'm now starting to like Mike Brown finally.
Can I tell you the most impressive thing about Mike Brown on Monday? I don't know why this impressed me, but it did. And it's off the beaten path a little bit. So he got done with us as writers, and I think he had one more station to go to, right? And it's exhausting. He's 90 years old. He doesn't hear very well. He's getting peppered with questions. Couple questions, he completely misunderstood the question and gave some other rambling answer, which is fine. But then he
was doing that 20 years ago too. Like he seems as sharp now as he did 20 years ago.
So then he has to present the Paul Brown Coaching Award to a local high school coach, and Tom Bolden from Lakota West earned the award. And he's up there presenting the award to Tom, and he has no note cards, no nothing. And he gives his record of what he did at Colerain. 12 seasons at Colerain, he posted a blah, 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 blah record, da, da, da. And at Lakota West, he just says, and Tom Bolden turned, he goes, I didn't even know my own record. And I thought, 90 years old and just off the top of your head, that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty good, yeah. I'm surprised he was able to rattle that off, period. Even if he had it on a script in front of him.
Correct.
All right, Skinny, what else? You actually saw a little bit of football today, I guess, at training camp in theory. Is there anything to report from that? Is there anything else going on here other than the contract negotiations?
Love morning practice. Not going to lie. Morning practice is my new jam. I hope they do it for eternity.
Good.
Joe Burrow seemed to like morning practice, except his performance didn't show it. He was rough. I mean, he was inaccurate. He was all over the map, and he even admitted he called it a poor performance, and it was. But some of it is, he said, first day back with the guys throwing, and you could see, I mean, he threw a deep corner route to T. Higgins that he sailed it over his head 15 yards. And that's one of those probably that if you haven't really thrown in a while, right? I mean, the guy's going to a specific spot. You're trying to throw it to a specific spot, and you just didn't. And he just had one of those days. I do think the Al Golden defense was fun to watch, even though there's no pads. Defenders can't get their hands on receivers yet. There's a lot of blitzing going on. There's a lot of disguise and stuff going on. I mean, Geno Stone had a blitz that it was weird because it's no pads, whatever. There's no full pads, so there's no contact. And all of a sudden you saw the ball get snapped, and we were kind of blocked off by a wall of players. Next thing I know, I see Burrow just throw the ball on the ground because Geno Stone, as soon as the ball was snapped, was right in his face. I'm like, wow, okay. That was kind of shocking. And, I talked to Logan Wilson for a little bit, and he said, that's kind of what we're really working on is making sure we get disguises down pat, because we think if we can disguise stuff, he goes, if we can confuse a guy like him, arguably the best quarterback in the league, I think we're going to disguise and bother other quarterbacks. And he said, if we can steal 6 or 7 points a game doing that, he goes, we're going to win a lot more games. So I think the first day of the Al Golden defense was a big hit. But I also warn people, it's the first day of training camp. Let it soak in just a little bit.
Yeah, I see what you guys are doing. This is Burrow's first like full offseason where he's ready to go, fully healthy. So you guys are going to knock him down the first day or two here. Say he didn't look good, and then by next week we'll all be reading the ball is coming off of Burrow's fingertips, unlike it ever has before. Hey, little added oomph.
He admitted it was a poor performance, and he even said the defense won the day, and he's not wrong. And again, that's the point I got. It's day one. I don't expect you're like, well, he's thrown to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins forever. Yeah, but they haven't thrown together for 6 weeks. You don't think that doesn't factor in just a little bit?
Oh, trust me, I could care less about any of these storylines because it's training camp and it's meaningless. But I know how this goes, and this is my prediction. Next week, by middle of next week, someone will be writing the story, or at least in a notebook, they will be writing that Joe Burrow is throwing the ball better than he ever has before. It's coming off his fingertips with a little added spin, a little added velocity. Guys, receivers, they'll have a quote from receivers saying how it's stinging their hands or something.
Firing it into tighter windows than ever.
Yeah, making those whole shots already.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see it coming. Get ready for that. Anything else here on Bengals training camp?
Yeah, the only other one was Evan McPherson did kick at the end of camp today and went 6 for 6 on field goals. So maybe Evan puts his year last year behind him. It's funny because everybody is talked about what an awful year Evan had, right?
Yeah.
He was 16 of 22, and 4 of his 6 misses were from beyond 50 yards. And yes, he's been great from beyond 50 yards. He's 24 of 35 in his career from beyond 50 yards. He's missed 1 career field goal under 40 yards in his career. He missed 6 last year, and it seemed like the end of the world, right? Because some of them were big kicks. And I would also tell you, one of the 6 field goals, remember, came after the Ryan Rico fumbled snap in the Baltimore game. So do you ding him for that? So technically, my man missed 5 field goals last year, 4 from beyond 50 yards. Is he really that bad?
Well, I did not realize how much concern or angst there was about him until just the last week or so.
Oh, yeah.
The content I've been consuming, and then just hearing some like from fans and friends who are all worked up about like, well, they need McPherson to be better. He stunk last year. And it's like, well, he did miss some big kicks. I'll give you that. Like, there's no doubt about it. But like, I don't know that there was this massive drop off that everyone claims there was. And also, it's like he got paid a ton of money. He's young. I'm sure, he maybe took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Now everybody's been ripping him nonstop for the last year. I imagine he'll be pretty sharp. I'm not too worried about Evan McPherson.
So day one of tracking Evan McPherson kicks, he was 6 for 6.
All right. Well, we'll continue to keep tabs and make sure he's in line and not watching any Snoop Dogg concerts or else.